Your search is over again, and in this video we're going to be going through 27 best space games that you can buy right now. And yeah, this concerns all the different genres where space is one of the playable locations. Basically, if you can play in space, it's gonna be on the list, and of course if it's good as well. And as always, because I'm not here to waste your time, all of the games will be available right here and the timestamps, and also in the description down below. So without further ado, and in no particular order, let's start with Terra Invicta. Terra Invicta is a space strategy game where you're controlling one of the nations on Earth, while Earth is being invaded by an alien race. So you need to find a way to save humanity, or even find the different uses for alien technologies. You are taking part in an industrialization of solar system and finding a way for humanity to survive. This game is pretty complex, yet very fun where you understand what you need to do. But if you want something that is much smaller in scale and scope, I'll give you Hardspace Shipbreaker. And all you do in this game is just deconstruct spaceships. As simple as that. Yet for some reason it is very fun. Game features quite deep and interesting mechanics of the spaceships, because you need to be very careful to not die while deconstructing the ships. It's really fun and it will keep you busy for really long time, despite its simplicity. But if you like assembling ships more and want something very simple, I give you Cosmoteer. In Cosmoteer, you design your own ships by building them within individual parts, and after that you are fighting with other ships in a very similar way like FTL, but of course with far more control. And that's actually pretty fun, a great way to play the game. And with an overwhelming positive response on Steam, this game is one of the must-buys if you like space genre. And speaking of FTL, well, let's talk about FTL. FTL, or Faster Than Light, is one of the OG spaceship building and fighting games. In this game, you're running away from a certain threat, and your goal is to go as far and as fast as possible. And on the path, also survive different encounters. Ship-to-ship combat is incredibly interesting, and with the roguelike elements, this game will keep you busy for really long time. But if you like something like FTL, but instead of fighting with other people, you want to fight yourself, I'll give you Marauders. In Marauders, you're actually a space pirate, and your goal is to take control of other ships. So you design and upgrade your own ship, finding some other player ships and invade them in a first-person view in order to salvage the loot. And of course, other people can do the same thing with you as well. Game is very reminiscent to Escape from Tarkov, and it's incredibly fun to play. But let's say you just want a game where you just want to take control of the universe and do whatever you want. Well, I'll give you Universe Sandbox then. In Universe Sandbox, you can literally build solar systems and galaxies and planets and see how they behave in a different situation. So if you want to create the star system of your dreams, or whatever way that you want, you can do that. And if you want to see what will happen if the Earth will have 58 moons, well, you can do that as well. The game is incredibly fun, especially if you love astronomy and astrophysics, and will literally keep you busy for really long time. But instead of creating, you just like watching and seeing the universe itself, then there is a Space Engine. Space Engine is less of a game and more like a virtual planetarium where you can visit any place in the universe. And yes, this thing is simulating entire universe. And no matter where you look and no matter where you click, you can visit this place. Because this game has incredibly great procedural generation that allows you to visit everything from an asteroid to planets to even stars. And you can actually land on them and see how they look and how they behave. And every single stellar body has their own characteristics. And if you want to find any type of planet or star system, you can find it here. But there is one game that is often confused with Space Engine, and it's Space Engineers. And the name is literally the only thing that they have in common, because Space Engineers is kinda like Minecraft in space. You have a few planets and you have a few asteroids that you can mine for resources, and your goal is to build whatever you want. You can play this in a multiplayer with friends or with your enemies, and create insane buildings and spaceships and battle with them, or just build whatever you want. The game is sandboxed, and there are literally no limitations of the things that you can do there. But if you want something that is much larger in scope, of course there is Stellaris. Stellaris is a huge space strategy game, giving you control of any type of sci-fi nation that you want. Whether it's a hive mind, whether it's a determined exterminators that want to exterminate everything alive in the galaxy, whether it's an AI robot nation or just a nation of sentient mushrooms, you can play with anything that you want and against anyone as well. Game is incredibly deep and interesting and will satisfy sci-fi needs of literally everyone. But if only sci-fi universe that is satisfying your needs is Star Wars, well, there's also Star Wars Squadrons. Yes, there are a lot of great Star Wars games, but Star Wars Squadrons is one of the latest and the greatest. It puts you in the control of either rebel starships or Empire and just pitches you in this large-scale space combat. And with a pretty great story mode, which kinda likes an extended tutorial, this game plunges you into multiplayer battles unlike anything else, and it is incredible fun, especially if you're gonna play it with flight sticks or HOTAS. and even in VR. But if you want something more linear and more epic, well, there is Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Technically, you will not classify it as a space game, but each game actually has space movement elements as well, so I kind of put it here. Mass Effect is an epic story from starting from the beginning of the first one going till the end of a third one. That will put you on a journey unlike anything else. And yes, these games do not require any more introductions. If you haven't played it, you must play it. There is no questions there. But if you want something where you can just travel around in a literally infinite universe, there's of course No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is one of the top space games right now, and rightfully so. Game has been expanded in a huge way compared to its launch, and giving you the control and ability to travel in almost infinite procedurally generated universe. Travel on a planet, mine resources, create your own fleet, or just create your own base and, well, harvest different plants. Do whatever you want. This game allows it. And if you want something that does not hold your hand and just tells you, yeah, do something about everything that you have around you, there is always Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is technically kind of like a puzzle game, which does not tell you whatever the hell is happening around you. It tells you, yeah, something is happening, figure it out. And at first it sounds incredibly overwhelming, but in reality it's one of the most relaxing and one of the most moving experiences that you will ever have in any game. And yes, this is also a must-play game for everyone's list. But if all that you want is just go around and create your space empire, X4 Foundation allows you to do that. Being one of the best space sandboxes, this game allows you to play space game in any way that you want. Starting from the regular pilot or pirate, you can become even a trader, hauler, miner, or even a general of their army, or even an emperor of your own kingdom. And if you are just tired of doing all the things yourselves, you can always hire a lot of different AI companions to do all of those things for you. This game allows you to play in whatever the way that you want, except that it's not very good simulation of a real space flight. That's where Kerbal Space Program comes in. Kerbal Space Program, first one, not the second one for now, is the best space program simulator where you need to actually go to space by following every laws of physics and rocketry that exists right now. This game is incredibly difficult, yet when you will figure it out, it's also incredibly realistic and very fun, even to this day, after more than a decade since it came out. And if instead of realistic spaceflight you want to create your own space colony, there is always Ixion. Ixion or Ixion is a space colony building simulator where you build colony in space and keep your people happy and fed. And you also industrialize entire solar system and also follow quite an interesting storyline. This game is very underrated and very fun to play, and everyone must play this game. And if all that you want is to build a space factory that spans entire star systems, well, there is Dyson Sphere program. In this game, your goal is to literally create a Dyson Sphere. Or in reality, your goal is to harvest as much energy as you possibly can, and Dyson Sphere is literally the best way to do so. And you are doing this by creating orbits and layers and layers and layers and layers of a Dyson swarms. But to do so, you need a lot of resources. And you do this by harvesting these resources on planets, and then through entire planetary systems, and then through entire star systems. This game is very good, even despite being in early access, and you must play it. But if you want something that is classic, and the thing just takes you to space and keeps you there, well, there's always Elite Dangerous. Yes, despite being in a downfall stage, game is still fun for a lot of different people. And if you want the relaxing and a grinding experience of being in space, getting resources, and getting better and better ships, and playing with different people, Elite Dangerous is still good bet. But one game might actually take it over sooner rather than later, and it's Spacebourne 2. Developed by literally one person, this game is trying to simulate what Star Citizen still cannot do, and it's to simulate entire universe, where you are center of it. Fly through different star systems, create your own bases, land on the planets, engage in FPS combat or space combat. This game literally has everything, except for, well, polish. It's kind of raw right now, but it's still better experience than many other space games. And if you want experience that will pummel you to the ground, there is always EVE Online. EVE Online is the space MMO game, where everything is actually controlled by players themselves. And if you want to see most epic creations and most epic battles by players, EVE Online is the place to go. Even though it's kind of outdated right now by the most space sim genre, it's still great game if you are willing to put a lot of time in it. But if you don't, there's always Chorus. Chorus. Chorus is a single-player space arcade game, and it's a game where you kinda have also powers. Kinda space game with a little bit of space magic in it. And the game has pretty interesting story, great open world, and also quite great combat. And despite the game being not very long and not very replayable, game is amazing experience if you are jumping in there for the first time. And if you liked it and want something more similar and something more, I would say, refined, there's always Everspace 2, or even Everspace 1 for that matter. Everspace 1 is a space arcade roguelike, while Everspace 2 is actually an open world space RPG, where you travel in an open world from sector to sector, from star system to star system, and completing pretty interesting story as well. Game is also a looter shooter, allowing you to get the different spaceships and different weapons for your spaceships, making you more and more powerful. Game is extremely polished and amazing experience. But if you want something more open world and something more procedurally generated and something large in every scale possible, there's always Avorion. Avorion is a sci-fi sandbox game, and it puts you into large procedurally generated galaxy. You can build your own spaceships, travel around, engage in battles against AIs or even against other players. The game has a huge galaxy to play in, and it will keep you busy for really long time. If you want something more similar but with more emphasis on survival, there's also Empyrion. Empyrion is a space survival adventure game where you travel in a galaxy that is full of dangers, including space and also planetary landings. You can play in single player, multiplayer, and also build your own bases and vehicles and spaceships from a variety of different materials and components. Game also features realistic physics, including gravity, atmospheric pressure, and even temperature. So game is quite interesting. And if you like realistic gameplay, well, there is always Nebulous Fleet Command. Nebulous is putting you into control of your own space fleet, but with an emphasis on realism. Because in space, you don't engage in combat visually. You engage in combat through radar warfare and through intelligence warfare, and it is extremely complex and difficult game to master and even to get into. But when you will, it's also a very satisfying experience because, yeah, this game is extremely fun to play when you will understand it. The game's complexity is its strongest part, and you must not be afraid of it. But if you want a strategy game that is much less complex, there is always Planetary Annihilation and its expansion, Titans. Planetary Annihilation is very similar to Supreme Commander, but here you actually go into space. You control your forces on literal planets and planetary bodies, and you can travel between those planets, and you can even destroy the planets. You can start your game with your enemy on the same planet, and you can literally leave it and hit an asteroid on your own planet, destroying it and your enemy at the same time. Game is incredibly fun, especially in a multiplayer. But don't get me wrong, it's pretty tough against other players because other players can do the same things that you can do as well. And you can even team up with other players while starting as an enemies first. So game is very unpredictable and very fun. But if you want something that is a bit different, yet still great space experience, there is always a Homeworld. Homeworld is a real-time space strategy game set in space, and both first and second game features single-player and multiplayer modes, where single player is a story-driven campaign broken into levels. And it's one of the most truly three-dimensional real-time strategy game, allowing you to movement in all different directions. So if you like the game with the gripping narrative and amazing setting and incredibly fun gameplay, Homeworld is game for you. Whew! Well, that was it. 27 games. Then, to be fair, there was much more that didn't make the cut. And if you want me to make another list of 27 great space games, don't forget to like this video. And when we'll get, let's say, not the big number, 200 likes, I will make another 27 space game list. So this is it for today. Thank you for being here with me. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more videos like this one. I'm gonna see you in the next one. See ya.